Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another NIAB Talks About video. We're back here once again, but instead of the chilling winter that we had pretty much half a year ago, we are now back with a very hot summer. Actually, it's not that bad out, which is quite good because if I'm being honest, I don't like the summer. I enjoy the winter, and I'm not huge on the summer. So, honestly, I wish we were in the reverse part of the year. And fun fact, my birthday is in the summer. That sure sucks for me, doesn't it? But anyways, we're back here to once again speak about things, but neither the winter nor the summer, not even the fall. No, the spring. It is time for me to speak about spring and all of the interesting things that have happened over the spring. It's been quite the long spring, in fact. It felt super long, to the point that I was able to accomplish a whole lot, and it felt like time didn't pass at all. With that said, let's get right into the video, shall we? So I already made a whole ass video on it, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit here, and if you're really interested to hear a little bit more, I recommend going to check out the video right here. But over the course of this spring, I read Rokudenashi Blues. That should be kind of obvious by now, but read what's currently out of it because the whole thing isn't translated, and funny enough, at the point that I did catch up, more got translated, so I got to read even more, but it wasn't all of it. There's still like 100 chapters left. But it wasn't exactly all of it. There's still like 100 How am I fucking this up? But it wasn't exactly all of it. There were still like 100 chapters left. Maybe less than that, honestly. There might even be like, 90 or 80. Regardless, there's still a decent bit left. But out of what I've read so far, allow me to speak about it like this. I'm not really super into boxing or sports anime. That's not to say I dislike them, but they've never really been the genre to catch my eye. I have no problem trying them, right? In terms of animes and all sorts of shit. But it should be noted, those really aren't the big things for me, and therefore, doesn't matter too much in my eyes. Just for me, personally, right? You're free to love it, of course. That's just me. That said, while I'm not super experienced with boxing in general, or even boxing-related animes, mangas, all sorts of shit like that, reading Rokudenashi Blues was fantastic. I'm excited to read it more once it's fully finished and everything. This is easily a top 10 series. I've already decided that it's a top 10 series. It's past Baki. I don't think it's past anything else because that's some hard competition. But overall, it's past Baki, which is big. And Baki is really going to get fucked over. You'll see it later near the end of the video. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But Rokudenashi Blues is fantastic for what's out in terms of, what's able to read and all that, right? It's really damn strong with its characters, its arcs, everything. It feels like this mixture of here's these skits that occasionally happen, chapter by chapter. Here's this funny scenario that plays out, this dramatic scenario, whatever it may be, right? All sorts of scenarios in different topics and emotions and all that. But as those play out, eventually, much like Spy Family actually is what I'm going to say, much like that, you reach an arc where out of nowhere, a whole ass, decent amount of chapters are focused on this one thing. And that's pretty much what happens here. We get arcs focused on them going to different locations, them fighting the big four type of people. Well, I guess technically big three because, Maeda, the main character, is one of them. So it's actually, other dudes and then him and make up the big four. But yeah, but all sorts of shit like that. And just everything packaged together is a really damn nice experience. The boxing stuff doesn't really happen that frequently, but it does happen occasionally. And when it does, it is pretty damn entertaining, and I'm excited for later because I do have a general understanding for how this is going to end, and it makes sense. giving this a boxing manga. But I'm very excited to see that, because that should wrap up this whole story, this whole long-winded plot line that's, you know, good, right? It's good with how long it's been. But this whole ass plot line will finally reach its conclusion once everything's, you know, translated and all that. And I cannot wait to see it. Hey, so remember when I did the original Talks About video and we talked about Trigun? Well, I watched Trigun so that I could prepare myself for Stampede. We are now here today to speak about Stampede, because I watched that over the spring as well. And let me just say, I kind of wish I didn't watch the original. Stampede is great, and I definitely think if it's your first time, you might be able to enjoy it way more. Honestly, even if you watch the original, there's a chance you might like Stampede more, right? You might prefer some of the things there. I will say though, for myself, it felt weaker, and I know Stampede is a lot closer to how the manga is than how the original was, but I don't know, even though the original was filled with filler, it was pretty damn strong, right? It had moments where it fell a bit, right, in terms of plot and all that, but it was still decently strong, I felt. Stampede is nice and all, but there's a lot that it feels like it's missing there, right? Some moments in the plot feel like they go on a little bit too long and it becomes a little bit boring. Like, the original had that problem occasionally, but Stampede kind of gets that a lot, I feel, right? It has moments where it's definitely good in terms of plot and what's going on, but sometimes it just really goes over a point and it's just like, okay, I think we can chill out a bit here. And characters, it's weird to say, but they don't feel as strong here, because in the original Trigun, it felt like here's 3 idiots, Wolfwood has slightly more brains, and then here's Meryl, who is like the actual smart one overall. But with Stampede, it kind of just feels like, okay, so here's all these idiots, and then there's this guy who replaces Millie. He just does that. I'm not entirely sure why. From what I gathered, that wasn't even in the manga, although feel free to politely correct me on that if you're somebody who reads the manga and you know. But from what I gather, Millie was just in there from the get-go, so it's kind of weird that this dude is here, and this is supposed to be more accurate to the manga, but it's also different because of certain things. Really weird. Overall, though, Stampede does have some problems for me, personally, compared to Trigun. I definitely prefer it less. That said, it's still strong, and I definitely can't wait to see what Season 2 will have in store. With the way it ends, I'm excited. But, you know, it has me curious for where we're going to go from here, what characters are we going to meet, all sorts of shit, right? I'm very curious. Hey, so I watched that one mech show that everybody talks about, and seeing as it's very character focused and everything as one of its biggest points, and I'm very huge about that, you might be able to tell by the amount of videos I did on a certain series that are on the channel, along with future videos to come for that series. You just might be able to tell though, just a little bit. But anyways, I watched the mech series that feels like it's very focused around that, and alright, this was quite the experience. It's really funny how I've seen multiple different clips of Evangelion, and yet somehow, because of the amount of shit that happens in it, the amount of shocking moments, weird science shit that we get into, which is definitely really interesting, but it's also like, holy shit, we are unwrapping some stuff here. Because of all of this shit, it ends up feeling like I knew nothing. Like, I knew about multiple scenes in the series, and yet I felt like I knew nothing. And if your show can do that, That is really impressive. This series, I can definitely see why it's super damn popular. Like, okay, from the get-go, mech stuff is awesome, right? I'm a kaiju fan. I love Godzilla movies. I plan on trying out a lot of other stuff, such as like the Gamera stuff, or Gamera, whichever of the pronunciations we want to use. Ultraman, I want to learn about, right? There's this big-ass fucking series of shit to go on with that, right? And I want to see more. All sorts of shit like that. I'm huge about that sort of thing. So, you give me a series that is, here's mechs, and you control them, and you're connected to them, which is especially cool, right? And from there, you fight these fucking things. These angels. Like, literal angels, essentially. But they're massive, and they're beast-like. That's cool. That's really fucking cool. You give them guns too? That's cool. That's cool. You give the angels weird spear and diamond-like forms? That's cool. Then we get the characters of Evangelion, and even they're really strong, right? We see a lot to them, and honestly, I don't want to make the comparison. I literally already just made the joke of, yeah, here's, you know, the content on the channel, but there's something that I could compare these characters to, because there's, you know, self-improvement with that series being a big focus, and then there's this series where there's like the flaws in people and everything, and trying to overcome that, and all sorts of shit. There's a lot I could compare here with that, but I'm gonna avoid it because I've done this before. In fact, the previous video, excluding the Kirby one, I did that already, essentially. So, I don't think we're gonna do that again, but I'm gonna hold off, I'm gonna restrain myself, and we're not gonna make that comparison. So, but alright. So, now, our basket of shit has two things in it. You know, we have the characters, we have the kaijus, and the mechs. They're also in that part. But we got those two things in there, right? This is a nice basket so far. It's nice, it's crafted, you know, mahogany wood, all this, beautiful. I don't know if it'd be mahogany wood because that's a basket, but you know what? Don't worry about that part, right? There's a nice blanket over it, but we need to actually add more, right? We can't just put that blanket fully over it yet, right? And then just take it on that picnic. We gotta get more in there. So what if we take this big part called the plot, which is science and, you know, the flaw stuff I mentioned, but also this weird connection shit with people and their parents and all these experiments and angels and religion and all this shit, fucking just everything, right? Just everything. We pick it up, we put it in there. Boom. Explosion. Our basket has exploded. It's all over the place. But honestly, I like this result, right? It's a cool mess. I could put this in a museum. That said, it's a mess. But it's great. It's beautiful. I love it. It is not a top 10 series for me. But I love it. It's a beautiful mess, right? It's gonna earn a decent bit of money in that museum. But I don't know if I'll have a whole frame over it and it'll be the front focus there. But it's great. And that's genuinely how I feel about Evangelion, is this is a fantastic story. And I can definitely see why there's a 50-50 on if you'll love it or if you'll hate it. There's usually no in between. I can fully see it now. Because either you just can't dig it and you probably really won't enjoy it, or you will watch it and have the time of your life. It fully makes sense to me now. I completely get it. It's beautiful. Love this shit. I might actually have to try some of the other movies at some point, just because. For this next section, I'm going to just give a speedrun synopsis for how I feel, and along with what you should do, in case you are interested. So, let me now just speak very quickly about daily life of high school boys. The show is very funny, and while sometimes jokes don't land super well, there is a lot of the time where these jokes work really, really well, and it's very fucking great at that. I think, personally, there are some jokes in there that, you know, like I said, are very simple, but some of them, honestly, most of them, are just really damn good. Overall, I think it's a really damn great show, and if you love comedies, all sorts of shit like that, I recommend watching it. It sadly only has one season, and I think not many episodes at all, but overall, it's very enjoyable. Please watch it. So much like I mentioned with Rokudenashi Blues, once again, I haven't seen many sports series out there. Now, that said, I have a big wheel of anime. You might have seen it in the Rokudenashi Blue video. But with that, on that wheel, I had a fun little sports show on there that recently had came out and also finished. I spun the wheel shortly after Daily Life of High School Boys. And I got that show. That being Blue Lock. And let me say, I was worried going into this a little bit because I don't mind the idea of, you know, friendship and shit like this and teamwork in series. Honestly, it can work out really well. What I do mind a little bit is when we get a little bit too corny with it, right? I like the corniness to a certain degree, but I worry when it's a little bit too corny because then it's like, okay, well, it just feels like we're always going to win because of that. Now, with that said, Blue Lock really impressed me because going into it, I had that expectation. Watching it made me realize, oh, this is the opposite. These people fucking hate each other. These people are going to do everything so that they succeed and not everybody else. And yeah, sure, they'll have to work together sometimes, but overall, they're focused on themselves. This is good. And it's really damn interesting because not only do you get this whole thing where everybody's pretty much an asshole to each other, there is some teamwork there, there is some slight building of friendships, right? But overall, people are just going to take each other down so that they can become the best, right? Not only is there that, but we have some elimination shit to this. So, if you like certain characters, there's a chance they're going to get fucked over. There's a chance that it's like, oh, well, there they go, they're gone, that's it, right? That you can never play soccer again, pretty much, or not professionally anyways. And this is what makes it really intense, because you'll have characters that you'll really enjoy, and in the back of your mind, there's that worrying feeling of, oh god, they might just disappear from here at some point, should something go wrong. This series is really damn great. It really impressed me, and like there were times where it did feel a little bit teamwork, friendship heavy, but they made it clear shortly after what this series was, right? They reaffirmed it fully into your brain, and I loved that. Overall, I'm very excited for the second season. I don't think I will read through it because it's not completed at the moment, right? I like to read through things if they're completed because reading it week by week, that sort of thing, kind of drains on you, and sometimes you forget a few details here and there. It's better to just read it in full, and then, you know, you remember everything, you can go through everything. It's beautiful that way. Overall though, excited to see more. This is a very good series, and I am really, really fucking excited. So at the current moment, I don't have much to say about City Hunter, because I've gone through about 22 episodes, and overall I can't say it's a funny show. It does have some jokes that are very clearly of the time, but overall, there are some good funny moments to it, there are some cool moments. It felt a lot like a Saturday morning cartoon. And that said, two things with that. One, it's very clearly not, given the humor and certain things that happen. Not really Saturday morning cartoon, maybe Saturday night cartoon. But number two, I realized a problem I had, and this is a problem I only realized recently, and because of this, I actually have to make this section very short. City Hunter, at least via the anime, which is how I'm going through it, has filler. A lot of filler. To the point where half of the first season is pretty much filler. Maybe a little bit more than that, honestly. The second season, about half of that is filler. Maybe a little bit less. The third, I think, has a few filler episodes in there. It might actually have a decent amount, but I think it's only a few. And same with the fourth, right? Overall, it has, technically speaking, you know, in terms of the balance, there's about as much filler, I feel, as there is canon. Now, note, I said 22 episodes is what I watched. That is true. Some of that was filler. So therefore, in terms of the actual, you know, interesting plot stuff and everything that actually does happen, I can't speak about that much. It was still entertaining overall, right? I can at least give the filler that. It was entertaining filler, and that is worth it. But this was a hard series to, you know, consistently watch, and knowing that there was filler that I was watching, it does kind of affect me in a way of just, oh, okay. So a lot of this I could have skipped over, and a lot of this I can skip over, and overall I can shorten my experience into a nice condensed version where I'm still enjoying it, and I get to go through the actual stuff that happens. This series is Kill la Kill, but literally better. What do you expect me to do? It's gonna be in my top 10. Of course it's gonna be in my top 10. Kill la Kill was already there. Of course this is gonna be there. And yeah, of course that's what's gonna be what fucks over Baki. Because if you give that series, right? If you give Kill la Kill way more time to develop characters and plot and all sorts of shit, right? Technically speaking, it doesn't need to. But if you did, yeah, it's really damn good. So, as part of the whole Shonen Jump type of journey that I've been doing, Medaka Box gets included into this whole spring talk about video. And, wow, alright, so the first arc or two, it should be noted that I've been reading this, right? I've learned that the adaptation isn't great, which is wild because it's Gainax, the same people who made Gurren, who, you know, part of those people eventually went to work with Studio Trigger. A lot of people moved over there. So it's kind of shocking that this series was done by Gainax, who also probably did Kill la Kill. And these series, while not absolutely the same, have some pretty damn similar elements to them. And yet somehow that adaptation wasn't that great. For an obvious reason, though. Let me now explain. So reading through it, I went through the first and second arc, right? Funny, cool, great, right? It's also similar to Kill la Kill. It's making fun of a lot of tropes, and I do like that, right? It's both playing on them, but also making fun of them. I love it when shows do that. The first two arcs, you know, they're strong, but it's not anything absolutely insane. I then get to the third arc, where we get a proper introduction of a villain. Now, I'm not going to speak too much about them, because to be honest, we haven't had really that many spoiler sections in this video, so just for the sake of that, we're going to keep this a general spoiler-free video. And we get to the third arc, and we get to the villain there. And not only is that villain so fantastic, like, oh my lord, this is great, right? But we get the arc itself, and it is so damn good that it made me go, yeah, okay. This series was probably gonna get a 9 overall, seeing as I finished 2 arcs and I was gonna, you know, keep going. Yeah, it's getting a 9, and I'm also shoving it above Baki for the moment, because if it's this good already, listen, the later arcs don't have to be as good, but if they're just consistent, that's it. That determines the whole ass thing. And if they're better, shit, it goes higher, right? Overall, that just in of itself, really damn amazing. Now, I haven't read super far into the 4th arc, right? I'm a little bit into it, but from what I understand, there's 140 chapters of that. Well, 140 is where the chapter ends, not 140 chapters of that. 140 is where it ends overall, or somewhere around there. I'm currently at 100, so I have about 40 chapters left. Still have a decent way to go. But overall, it's been really damn great. Characters are amazing. Shockingly, this is one of the few series where the main character is my favorite. Now, if you were to look at my anime list, you would also see Maeda from Rokudenashi Blues on there. He's on there because I can't put a picture of Hatanaka in. I submitted one, and it never actually happened. Nothing came of that. So that's real cool. I just kind of want to put him there, but because it's a question mark, I can't. So I put Maeda there. Right. Technically speaking, he's not my favorite character of Rokudenashi Blues, but he's my second favorite. Now, that said, with Medaka Box, on my anime list, I have Medaka on there as the favorite character. That one is true. She is a very entertaining main character. Pretty much everything I could feel regarding a character is perfectly displayed here. Maybe not, any sort of lustful sort of emotion. Mostly because, one, when I read a series or watch one or whatever, I kind of lose any sort of attraction to a character. That just happens to me. It's just an automatic thing. But number two, most likely underage. Every other emotion, though, that I could feel out of a character overall is displayed here. And I really do like it. Because it's like, man, that's how you know you've done a character well. Is if you can do that shit to a character. And then, like I said, we have the villain, who honestly might be my second favorite. I'm debating on which one I like more, and as I go through the series, a lot more becomes clear with one or the other. It's kind of interesting. And it's even like all these side characters, new ones they introduce, all sorts of shit. All of them are entertaining. It's really damn enjoyable. All of them get cool fights. All of them get funny moments. It's great. This is exactly what I could have hoped for a series like this. And it's kind of disappointing that its adaptation only really did the first two arcs, and from what I understand, a little bit of the third arc. Because that's where it really picks up. But yeah, I do wish this had something better for an adaptation. But it's a Shonen Jump series. At this point, a lot of those just get kind of okay adaptations sometimes. It's an unfortunate reality. So out of the 3 Breaking Bad related puzzle pieces, before I only had 2 of them completed, and now I officially have the 3rd one done. So, Better Call Saul. This was a very entertaining series to go through, and that's kind of saying something, because I don't know why I did this, but when I was in the middle of watching Breaking Bad, just because it was a prequel, for some reason in my brain, I was like, you know what, oh, here's all these Better Call Saul clips on my YouTube feed, I can watch these, and I just did that, just because. I really shouldn't have, honestly, because that spoiled me for a lot of the show, and I really didn't end up being that surprised with certain things, or feeling that tense. That was kind of unfortunate. Really shouldn't have. But even then, even knowing about a bunch of stuff, I was able to still be thoroughly entertained. And it's kind of crazy going through this series, because the whole time, it's clear from Breaking Bad that Saul isn't the greatest in terms of a person, but going through this series made it so fucking clear of just how not super great he is, right? He occasionally might have some moments, but a lot of it is just like, oh man, yeah, okay. But like, understanding what's happened to him, all this sort of shit, it's like, it kind of makes it clear, even though it's not correct, it makes it all clear. and just everything involving this is really damn great. A lot of the characters who we meet through here are really damn nice, right? I love how they're built a whole lot. I will say I do wish some of them had more screen time. There's some that show up in later seasons, and it's kind of unfortunate because that means they get less time to build as characters. And it's like, man, they're really damn good. I kind of wish they had more time on screen, right? A little bit unfortunate there. But there's a lot here that's still really great, and even if they get that little bit of screen time, right, they still get to be very entertaining regardless. It's weird to say, but between Breaking Bad and this, it's like almost tied for me, in my opinion. With one exception. This series felt like the plotline was very focused to one singular point, both in the prequel related stuff and also the essentially flash to the future stuff that occasionally happens. What I mean by this is with Breaking Bad, you could take a season from that, and after that season finishes, you could kind of go anywhere with that, right? They could have wrote it in any way, I feel. But with Better Call Saul, it feels like every season builds up to this big moment with either, like I said, the prequel stuff or the stuff that happens later. And that might sound bad at first, because then that makes it, a little bit predictable. Except, here's the thing. It's not really predictable, at least I feel. And overall, that general, consistent focus to one point actually makes it really damn entertaining. Because when you finally get there, it's like this huge release of, oh, this is what everything's been, moving towards. This is it. And I think that's really damn nice. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why I would push it slightly above Breaking Bad for me. Overall, it's really damn good. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of unfortunate knowing this is the last piece of that whole thing to watch, but you know what? I'll live with it. Overall, beautiful. So normally this would be the longest section of the video, but if I'm being honest, we don't have anything Bleach related to talk about this time. I got a cool shirt though. Well, with that said, folks, that's it for the spring 2023 video. We've talked about all that we have to talk about. And now, we'll wait out the summer. The worst fucking time of the year, in my opinion. And after that, we may once again come back and speak again. So, take care till then, folks. And have a great rest of your night. Square.